The Greeks were hesitant to admit that these women possessed exceptional physical strength. They sear the chests of newborn girls so they can better handle a bow, and they mate with men only once a year solely for procreation. They were formidable and ruthless women, the Amazons. They referred to themselves as daughters of the god of war, Ares, and slayers of men. Modern historians consider them to be merely a beautiful legend. But a recent discovery by archaeologists has altered our perception of the Amazons. The team of underwater archaeologists spent several weeks working in the submerged section of the ancient Greek city of Olia. And suddenly, a sensation. The skull of an ancient Olia resident was discovered for the first time.
This skull was shattered in a battle, but it did not belong to a man as it was too small. Initially, the archaeologists believed they had found a child's skull, but they later determined it to be the remains of a female warrior. Then the scientists reached a sensational conclusion. It was an Amazonian skull.
So this is not a myth. The Amazons truly existed. And if so, how could they have gotten onto our property? The solution should be in Olia. Today, it is the largest ancient monument in Ukraine. It was once a powerful northern colony of ancient Greece. The Amazon Queen's Belt. Archaeologists spent 18 days investigating the submerged city of Olia. They examined the seabed inch by inch. But there was silt everywhere.
We utilized specialized equipment and photography techniques. For the first time, we were able to capture images in the turbid waters of Olia.
Finally, at a depth of 15 meters, the scientists began to discover stones, shards of pottery, and even coins. But suddenly the devices emitted a strange signal. Deep in the silt was a weapon, and next to it was a small skull.
We discovered the skull of a young woman. The specialists were able to ascertain her gender through her dental structure. She was approximately 20 years old. Alongside her, we found a stone used for sharpening cold steel. This resulted in the exciting finding that we had unearthed an Amazon's skull, not just any regular one.
In an ancient Greek colony, we found a portrait of an Amazon. This is a fragment of a crater, a vessel the Greeks used to mix wine with water. This image is 2,000 years old, but it is well preserved. The secret lies in a special black varnish. Scientists still haven't determined its composition, but it has helped us visualize the Amazon. It portrays a blonde woman, and beside her is a griffin with the head of an eagle and the body of a lion. This mythical creature was considered a talisman of the Amazons. This baby was born amidst the battle. The priestess who delivered the baby shouted with joy, "It's a girl!" Another bride of the war god Ares. My mother smiled and then frowned a moment later. A battle awaited her. She had to assist her niece. Then the woman bent over her daughter and fastened a golden belt around her waist. She left the tent and never came back. On this day, her mother would perish in battle, and her daughter would mature to become one of the most formidable Amazonian queens.
The girl was named Aaga. She only saw her mother for a moment after she was born, but she still possesses her gift, the golden belt of Ares. It was a unique, magical amulet that Amazonian queens were expected to pass on to their newborn daughters.
The Amazons considered it the golden girdle of the war god Ares. Two of his buckles depicted a battle between griffins, mythical creatures with the head of an eagle and the body of a lion. When the belt was fastened, the griffins on the buckles appeared to bite into each other's backs. Little Aaga was playing with this belt, oblivious to the fact that she was holding the last precious gift from her mother, the queen of the Amazons. She was unaware that soon she would be compelled to don this belt herself, stepping into the role of a new warrior woman. Ancient historians have left records stating that a few days after the birth of their daughters, the Amazons would cauterize their right breasts. They did this to make pulling the bowstring easier. The ritual was conducted under the magical incantations of a tribal priestess. They endowed the girl's right hand with exceptional strength and agility. Adult Amazons could fire 12 arrows in a minute, even though their war bows were significantly heavier than contemporary ones.
The bowstring should be pulled with 2 fingers. I need to fire 12 shots in a minute. But this cannot be done without special training. Moreover, the bow is heavy. It's hard to imagine just how strong these female warriors must have been. They didn't miss a single shot, even while riding horses.
But in truth, the Amazons did not resort to such brutality. No depiction of ancient archers shows such disfigurement. Ukrainian archery bronze medalist Olena Sadovnicha believes that extreme exertion isn't necessary to excel in archery.
To be honest, I feel somewhat insulted on behalf of my sport, as many people are fixated on this particular issue. There's no interference at all. We have a bib that you can wear. But generally, there are no unpleasant feelings during the shoot.
During archery, the hand pulls the bowstring back parallel to the body. It works the muscles of the back and arms. It would be challenging for an untrained individual, regardless of gender, to handle the bow initially. However, modern archers can easily handle this weapon without sustaining any injuries.
You can give it a try. 18 kilograms. My friends sometimes come to practice. After 10 shots, my arms start to hurt. And you feel soreness the next day.
But then, where did the legend of the Amazons without breasts originate from? In Greek, the word Amazos actually means without a breast. But could it have had a different meaning?
The secret was unveiled by another ancient language, Sarmatian. It appears that it contains the word Amazon. It means those who do not cultivate grain. The Sarmatians indeed did not have time to cultivate grain, as their women were constantly engaged in warfare.
The head of the Olbian excavations, Valentina Krapovina, firmly believes that the Amazons truly existed in our region, but it was only the Greeks who referred to them as such. The warrior women were actually Sarmatians.
The woman held significant influence. This greatly impacted the Greeks' perception to the extent that they concocted the myth of the Amazons. However, these Amazons were not necessarily warrior women. More often than not, they were women who served as priestesses.
But could the legendary Amazons have been women from the Sarmatian tribes? And why did the Greeks consider them so ruthless? The Sarmatians arrived in the northern Black Sea region in the 3rd century BC. Where did they come from? Contemporary historians believe that they originated from the east and settled in the region of Lake Meotida. This is now the eastern coast of the Azov Sea. Then it is confirmed. According to the traveling historian Herodotus, it was there that the mythical Amazons first set foot on Ukrainian soil. However, Herodotus was mistaken. Archaeological discoveries confirm that these women were Sarmatians. Until recently, their lives were a mystery to scientists. That was until they discovered several dozen Sarmatian burials in Ukraine and Russia. Most of them were filled with women in military uniforms.
Indeed, these were women who cohabited with men. However, archaeological evidence supports this. There are burials of women accompanied by weapons, which conclusively confirms their participation in battles.
Sarmatian women wielded weapons and rode horses as proficiently as their husbands. That's why the Greeks, whose women were primarily involved in domestic chores, confused the militant Sarmatians with the mythical Amazons. The Greek historian Diodorus of Sicily even recorded a legend about a Sarmatian woman who proclaimed herself to be the daughter of the god of war, Ares. A ruthless woman issued a decree to harm all newborn boys to prevent them from overthrowing female authority. Aaga and her Roxolani Sarmatian tribe peers were trained in horse riding, axe fighting, and spear throwing from a young age. However, Roxolana's main weapon has always been the bow.
The bow is considered the Amazon's greatest weapon in battle. You just need to learn to understand it. Aaga knew this. The second arrow, shot by the young queen, hit the first arrow precisely and split it down the middle.
The girls' entertainments were observed with envy and melancholy by frail boys. All of them were disabled, with twisted arms and broken legs. Little Aaga wondered why the gods had punished her father and the other men of the tribe so severely. At that time, the future queen was unaware. According to tradition, every mother in her tribe was required to weaken her sons during their childhood so they would grow up frail and not overthrow the power of their militant women.
Instead, they disfigured them in their childhood. When they had male children, they either killed or disfigured them, intentionally converting them into slaves for their service.
Even the primary deities of the Sarmatian tribes were female. The power of nature was personified by the great mother goddess. The art of archery was bestowed by the mighty Aaga. Her sister Giovanna punished the disobedient and avenged insults. The Sarmatians had few male deities. Their role was rather modest. They were tasked with maintaining the household and ensuring order within the family.
The Sarmatians had their own religion. They believed that a woman was a superior being. After all, as a goddess, she can give birth, and therefore should rule over less perfect beings, namely men. This was the philosophy of female warriors.
The women of the Roxolani tribe battled against the Scythians and Greeks. When they launched an attack on another tribe, they would shout mazos, which means grain. The Sarmatians did not engage in farming. Instead, they obtained their grain supply through raids on neighboring tribes or Greek colonies. And the Greeks were fearful of these women, for in their cries they heard the mythical and terrifying word Amazons. In combat, Sarmatian female warriors were no different from their male counterparts. They were dressed in leather clothes and armor. The belt was the most significant accessory. The name of this tribe, Sarmatians, translates to girded with a belt. During the transfer of power in the Sarmatian tribes, the ritual of belting was obligatory. Every woman in the tribe had her own amulet belt.
The belt Aaga received from her mother at birth protected her better than any shield. It was believed that Sarmatian priestesses imbued this belt with magical power, thereby granting its wearer strength and invincibility in battle.
It was the most powerful belt worn exclusively by Sarmatian queens. We reconstructed it based on the descriptions of the Greeks. There were 3 broad strips of red leather, adorned with gold embroidery crafted from golden threads. Only the Sarmatians knew how to create them at that time. The belt was fastened with 2 gold buckles. They depicted a battle between 2 griffins, mythical creatures with the head of an eagle and the body of a lion. When the belt was fastened, the griffins on the buckles appeared to bite into each other's backs. Only women had the privilege to wear this belt of power. Under no circumstances should it have fallen into the hands of a man. It was believed that a man who dared to take it would soon die, and the amulet itself would lose its magical power. When Amazi turned 20, she married a Sarmatian named Mosac, who was lame. He also belonged to the royal family of another Sarmatian tribe. However, even his noble birth could not protect him from a harsh tradition. As a child, his legs were broken on his mother's command. Due to his injury, Mosac could not become a proficient warrior. His young wife sympathizes with him, but she has to take matters into her own hands. Shortly thereafter, Aaga unifies the Sarmatian tribes of the Black Sea region and commands a cessation of the wars with the Greeks. Gradually, the reputation of the new wise queen spread among other nations. One day, the Greeks from Chersonesus approached Aaga. Their city frequently endures Scythian invasions. The Scythians even succeed in forcing the residents to flee the city. That's why the Greeks seek assistance from Aaga.
It was the most successful military operation led by a woman. 120 Sarmatian women, dressed in Scythian attire, approached these walls at dawn. The guard at the gate failed to notice them and was struck down by the arrows of the female warriors a moment later. Aaga invaded Chersonesos. It only took an hour for her small squad to defeat the terrified Scythians.
The story of the Battle of Chersonesos was written by the Greek historian Polybius. During this battle, the Greeks noticed a golden enchanted belt around the queen's waist, a symbol of feminine strength. The thankful citizens of Chersonesos returned to the city and presented their savior with a crystal dolphin with a golden head as a token of honor. After the Battle of Chersonesos, Aaga disappears. There are no more historical references to it. What happened to the militant queen, and where did her power belt end up? We are going in search of Sarmatian settlements. These tribes once inhabited an extensive territory stretching from the Black Sea steppes to the Carpathians, but the majority of them settled in Crimea, specifically in the White Rock Massif. There are many caves in these mountains. Perhaps it is here that we will be fortunate enough to find evidence of the disappeared Sarmatian Roxolani tribe. We are getting closer to the solution. In one of the remote caves, there are still ancient markings on the walls.
Queen Aaga lived in this cave 2,000 years ago. Her tribe left marks here. However, today, no scholar can decipher these Sarmatian messages because the key to them was lost after Aaga's death.
Surprisingly, up to this day, scientists have been unable to decode these symbols on the cave walls. Perhaps these signs lead to Amma's grave. After all, scientists have indeed discovered several Sarmatian burial sites near the White Rock. But how do you identify the queen's tomb among them?
This is what a typical Sarmatian burial looks like. It is a burial mound within which, at a depth of about 5 meters, there was a painted wooden coffin. In most of these burial mounds, women and even young girls were discovered with evidence of injuries. They were always buried with weapons and magical amulets.
Historian Serhiy Koltukov promised to show us the tomb of an unidentified Sarmatian queen. It was discovered in a mound in a field near the town of Bilohirsk.
Standing approximately 8 meters high and constructed in the ancient times around the end of the 3rd millennium BC, atop the graves of the pit culture, the mound has endured for several millennia. During the Sarmatian period, in the 1st century BC, the most fascinating and remarkable burial occurred there, belonging to a high-ranking Sarmatian woman.
When the archaeologists began the excavations, they did not know what a sensational discovery awaited them. The mound was simply bulldozed.
And then, after the bulldozer went by, a fragment of the rim of a gray clay pottery vessel suddenly emerged on the smooth surface scraped by the bulldozer's blade, and gold sparkled. Gold plaques appeared. The machines were halted and manual excavations began. Within a few hours, the woman's grave was exhumed.
On the earthen floor, the archaeologists found traces of the sarcophagus's stands. The coffin itself did not survive, having decayed over several millennia. A small skeleton remained, with gold jewelry lying near it. The researchers deduced that it was a high priestess, or possibly a Sarmatian queen. Only she could wear such jewelry.
Around her neck she wore a tiara. On her arms she adorned beautiful bracelets. And on her remains was discovered a magnificent artifact in the shape of a dolphin, whose tail and head were crafted from gold, and whose body was made of rock crystal.
This dolphin was gifted to the Sarmatian queen by the residents of Chersonesos. Additionally, the Greek historian Polybius left a description. At that time, the Amazi not only wore a belt, but also 2 substantial gold bracelets, similar to those found in the tomb of an unidentified priestess. Serhii Koltukov states that these bracelets have been preserved and are now on display at the Kyiv Museum of Historical Treasures. We are going there.
These bracelets adorned Aaga's hands during the battle. Together they weigh almost a kilogram, and only a truly strong woman could wear them. However, among the jewelry from the Amazon Queen's tomb, there is no belt. Where could it have disappeared to? According to Sarmatian tradition, Aaga was supposed to pass it on to her daughter. But there is no information about the queen's daughter.
Aamagas passed away at the end of the 1st century BC, and coincidentally, the decline of the Sarmatian matriarchy began around the same time. The prominent position in the Sarmatian tribe was held by male warriors, and shortly after Aamaga's death, a young man named Inismai ascended to the throne. But why a man? From childhood, this boy was brought up by an elderly priestess. She concealed the origins and gender of little Inismi. For many years, the priestess presented him as a girl under the instructions of his mother, Aaga. She simply did not have a daughter. For many years, Aaga eagerly awaited the birth of her only child, eventually giving birth to a son amidst great pain. After giving birth, the queen passes away, but before her demise, she instructs an elderly priestess to conceal the gender of the newborn child. Aaga knows that if the women discover she has given birth to a boy, he will be subjected to mutilation, just like the other men of the tribe. The queen does not want this fate for her only son. She removes her belt, and just as her mother once did, holds it up to her child as a safeguard against destiny. And the elderly priestess is commanded to keep this secret under threat of retribution from the goddess Aaga. When the boy grows up, he has to give this belt to a woman.
But Inismai did not carry out his mother's wishes. When he grew up, he led a men's rebellion. He was assisted by Scythian warriors. During the reign of Inismai, the role of women was confined to household duties. In memory of Aaga, the young king never parted with her final gift, a belt.
Historians speculate Inismai died young. The cause is still unknown. Recently, in the Venetia region, archaeologists discovered the tomb of a young Sarmatian king. Scientists claimed that this was the burial place of Inismai himself. The grave of this warrior was located in a deep underground cave. The entrance was blocked with stones. When the archaeologists entered, they observed the remnants of the sarcophagus. It contained a skeleton with miraculously preserved fragments of clothing. This buckle adorned the belt that Inismai received from his mother. Here is the mythical griffin, which Sarmatian women regarded as their talisman. But Aaga was mistaken. The belt did not protect her son Inismai, because according to the ancient prophecy of the priestesses, only a woman could wield it. After the death of the Sarmatian king, his tribes lost their unity. They gradually intermingled with the Scythians and Huns. The remnants of the Sarmatian tribes assimilated among other nationalities. The belt has lost its magical potency, but the wisdom of the Sarmatian priestesses has been preserved. It has been passed down from mother to daughter for many centuries. The history of Ukraine has preserved the names of these women. They were wise and cunning. They also led men. In the 10th century, the ancient Rus princess Olga avenged her husband's death by burning down the capital of the Drevlians, Korostin. She did not possess a magic belt, nor did her great-great-granddaughter Anna, the daughter of Prince Yaroslav the Wise. In the 11th century, Anna Yaroslavna traveled to France to marry the illiterate King Henry. Later, she would teach the entire French court how to write. Without it, the king did not sign any documents or make any significant decisions. Just as the Turkish Sultan Suleiman did 5 centuries later, he was captivated by the daughter of a simple priest. She eliminated the Sultan's wives and children from other marriages and became the powerful and treacherous Sultaness Roxolana. For many years, she governed the entire Ottoman Empire. Women never again mentioned the times when they were in command over men. But they have retained their genetic memory. A memory of Amma, a female warrior who altered history with a single decision 2 millennia ago.